Hey, Bill here with Sports Fan Outreach. I want to talk this afternoon in terms of ministry partner development about emphasizing your works. Emphasizing your works. When you're communicating with potential ministry partners, you want to emphasize your work. I'm going to say this multiple times to try to get the focus on your work. We're going to give some examples of what is your work and what to talk about. But let me first show a couple of verses. Now, this is not an exposition on the word work or working. It's just a highlight of the emphasis that the Lord Jesus places on the word. So John 5:17, the verse says, He answered, but Jesus answered them, My Father is working until now, and I myself am working. Now, he's identifying himself with his work. I'm working. You know, he obviously emphasizes that he is the I am in the book of John, and you know, he's trying to make it plain who he is, the Son of Man, and so forth. But even when he does that, he's ultimately sort of pointing to his work as a means of our understanding and believing who he is. He says that many times in the book of John. Again, it's not exposition, just going over, but I think you'll see that what we are and that's his goal. He's come to do a work. He's emphasizing his work. His work is what he's there to do. We are beneficiaries of his work. And when you start to look at this through the lens of work, you might have a little bit different perspective. Now, for me personally, I spend a lot of time like, who is Jesus, right? I've read the Bible looking for the theology of him, his person, and so forth. And then at just one moment in time, God said, okay, now let's think about the works that are going on here. So I can understand if people are seeking who he is. Who is this I am? Who is the Son of Man? Who is the Son of Mary, the Son of David? These things, trying to piece it all together. I'm certainly sympathetic to that. But when you got to transfer into the work. Now, John 10:38, I'm going to go, let me say one point real quick. Now, there's a lot of nice people in the world, in a sense. So there's people in the world that have a certain personality or personhood about them, we might say. But what we end up identifying with them is their work. So, for instance, in mission work, there might be a really nice guy you know. He might get on Facebook some. But if he doesn't do any work, he's just a nice guy that is on Facebook, right? He doesn't have a work to point to. You see that? So people don't partner with us because we're nice people. People partner with us because we're doing a work. We're doing a work. And so even in life in general, you might have a friend, he's a nice guy. Where does he work? What does he do? And doing is not just a job, like I'm going to go to a job, but you know, he's a husband, he's a father, he's a this or a that. And so from his person, these things flow forth. But in other words, work is what we do. We do a work, and we work in various ways. In other words, we have different roles and responsibilities, but ultimately we are working. And then even there in that person, you might say, well, he's a nice guy. Well, that's kind of a work. He demonstrates kindness. He demonstrates mercy to people. So even there, we're identifying a work of him as a character trait. That's kind of how we think about it. If a guy's not very friendly, he's kind of a jerk. Well, that's how we think about it. Yeah, old Bill, he's a jerk, isn't he? You know, so you see that's coming from inside. So you start to see that's kind of the way we think about people. We're thinking about the works that come forth from them. Let's go to John 10:38 here to further emphasize the point. John 10:38. All right. We'll start at 37. If I do not do the works of my Father, do not believe me. But if I do them, do the works, though you do not believe me, in other words, who he is, who he's saying he is, believe the works, so that you may know and understand that the Father's in me and I in the Father. So that verse right there is a central verse in emphasizing what I'm saying, and I'm saying it because I've seen it right here, right? So if you read the whole context of what's being said, he's done a work, and they're talking about his work. Did he do the work on the Sabbath and all this stuff? See, so that is part. That's how he's emphasizing our faith in him. Believe me for the works that I'm doing. Believe me for the works that I'm doing. Believe me for the works that I'm doing. I think you can't say it enough that we want to emphasize our work not even our role in the work per se, but the fruit of the work. All right, so let me before we get down to the examples, let me talk about calling for a second, and that might bring a little more light here. So let's just say that everyone who goes out and does this kind of work has some sense of calling. You know, there was a time when you weren't doing it. There's a time that you were. You know, something happened in that moment in time. Okay, so let's just call it a calling. God called me, quickened me, brought me to life to go do this work. Now, at the beginning, it's really a lot about us. Hey, is God calling me? What's He calling me to do? Where does He want me to do this? That kind of stuff. That's normal. I'd say that's a really natural thing for us to do. And then, as you begin to answer some of those questions, and you move into a sanctifying time, a time of deep sanctification, so you can do the work that's coming. And that's still about us, about the sanctification of us and our understanding of who God is more deeply. That's still centered around us. But then ultimately, the calling, the preparation is leading to a work. And that's what we want to talk about, that work. So the calling is not about me. It's not about me being a great anything or being well known anything. It has nothing to do with any of that. The calling, the preparation is for the work to get done. The calling, the preparation is for the work to get done. And that when you start to see it that way, then you will see this is the work, and this is what we want to discuss with people, the work. When you discuss the work with people, potential ministry partners, and let them ask questions about you. Well, Bill, how did you get into this? Or how did that happen for you? They may not be interested. They might be interested. Who knows? But what we want them to realize is that work, and we want them to partner with us so this work can get done, right? So at Sportsman Outreach, primarily we are mobilizing evangelists to go to major sporting events. The sports fan hearing the gospel and being ministered to is essentially the fruit of our work. And there's some secondary things like inviting people to go and organizing the trips and so forth, but what we want to talk about are the gospel being preached and therefore heard by sports fans at these stadiums and major sporting events. That is our work, and this is what we want people to partner with to happen. The 56 million fans going into football stadiums in the fall, we want those fans to hear the gospel and have the chance to be ministered to right there in the moment and receive the gospel tract and be referred to someone for either whatever it is they need in their particular life at the time. See, that's the work we're doing. That's what we want people to deal with. We're trying to paint a picture, and I've not done a good job over the years, but paint a picture of that environment, the need for it, how it works, but that's our work, right? What's your work? What is your work? What do you want to see happen from your work, you see? So let me give a couple examples of some friends of mine that I know. I know these guys that I'm talking about. I know them pretty well. I don't always know all that they do. In other words, I don't know their work, but I know enough about them to talk about it. So right here, the reason I'm putting these names up here, not their names, is because this is the destination of their work. So Camden, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Olney, Upper Darby, that's around Philadelphia. This is where Joe Toy preaches. Joe Toy's been a friend for a while. He's Super Bowl outreach team leader this year. He's been to London with me several times. I've been around Joe quite a bit, and this is where he works on a consistent basis. This is the fruit. Souls in these places is where he works. So when he talks about things, he's talking about, hey, Camden this, and Philly that, and Upper Darby this, and Olney that, right? He doesn't talk about himself. He doesn't talk about anything else in his life. He talks about souls hearing the gospel, ministry in these places, right? And this is someone who gives money to Joe, knows that people in Camden, Philly, Olney, Upper Darby, other places are going to hear the gospel, right? Montgomery, Alabama, David Day. I've known David a while. I knew David before he was out preaching, and we had a lot of conversations about it. David Day spends most of his time in front of the abortion mill there in Montgomery. That's what he does. Those moms and those people that work there, they see David every day. He does other stuff as well, preaches some games and local minor league baseball games, but this is his primary work. See, this is what he wants to have happen. See, now in this environment, I think this is really important, is that what does David want there? He wants the moms saved, the babies saved, and the clinic shut down, right? That's what he's after right there. And that's what he needs to communicate to people. Now, does he want abortion to end around the United States? Well, sure, we all do that. But for him personally, the things he's working on right there in Montgomery are the lives of the moms and babies and shutting that place down. See, that's what David is to talk about all the time. And when they think of David Day, I'm going to give money to David. They're giving so those moms can hear the gospel, those babies can be saved, and that clinic, that mill shut down. God, South Ohio, Joshua Richards, another friend of mine, wants to preach the gospel to Southern Ohio. When you give to Joshua Richards, you're giving primarily that souls in Southern Ohio at festivals and fairs and ball games are hearing the gospel. Pure and simple. That's what you're trying to accomplish. These people are in the gospel. See what I'm saying? Now I could talk about Joshua and David and Joe, but that's not what's important. What's important is the fruit of their work. Now their person and their ongoing life makes this work fruitful, and their consistency there keeps it going. However, this is what people need to identify with them, and when we think of them, we're thinking of Joshua, Southern Ohio, David, Montgomery, Alabama, and Joe in these places around Philadelphia and Camden, New Jersey. And that's what I want to drive home. So when you're communicating with potential ministry partners, communicate with them about the work. Be as specific as possible about the work. Be as detailed about the work, be as exact about the work, be as realistic about the work, and that's where you want your mind trained to communicate all of that. So if you roll into somebody's office and say, oh man, isn't the United States a mess? Boy, they need the gospel. Well, that's true. Well, that doesn't help the guy understand what you're going to do with your work. Why should he contribute to you and be a partner with you when you make statements like that? That might be good in some arenas, but when we're getting down to business about asking someone to partner with you financially, you've got to give them something to partner with you about. See that? So be specific. Think of it down. Break it down. Learn to have concise language, concise stories. Give details like if in Camden that street is 4th Street and Main Street is where they preach all the time, and say we're back down to 4th Street and Main Street every day. And you know, Billy Bob over here owns a cafe. He walked by today and took a track. He hadn't taken one in 6 years. And Sam over here, who owns the men's clothing store just a block down on 5th and Main, he came by and asked me to pray for him. See what I'm saying? You start to bring people into the realities that go on in these places. David down there, yeah. You know, today was a day when one of the moms who says she's from let's just say down from Mobile, stopped, saw me out there, stopped, and came up and talked to me. I prayed with her and she left. See, bring them into the details of your story with details. I know it's hard, man. You come back from preaching all day, my mind gets fried. I get really, really exhausted. But you just have to train yourself to really tell good, specific stories. Southern Ohio, there's a festival there, and the annual Pea Picking Festival in Bell Center. You know, that's where, and Joe walks up and says, hey, Joshua, man, I saw you last year. I've been thinking about what you said. Tell me what to do to get saved. Tell that story. Tell it in detail, not just in a blanket fashion. Well, I've gone on long enough, and I think you get the picture. Remember, your works. Emphasize your works. These are examples of works. Jesus emphasized his works as his ultimate, sort of an ultimate way for us to believe in him. I do these things so that you will believe. We do these works so people will believe. Thanks for listening.